Hey everyone, it's Wowous. We're here with another Hearthstone video. Today we're going to be looking at the Saviors of Uldum cards that have come out since my last video. So I did a video the day that the cards came out, and these, let's see, 9 cards were the cards that I went over. So I'll post a link to the description below if you're looking for more information about those. But what I figured we'd do today is go through the newest cards. So as you can see here, there's been quite a few cards that have come out since. Just kind of talk through them one by one. So this video won't have any gameplay, but it'll be more discussion about these cards. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have cards that you think are going to be really strong, or you disagree with something I say, leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear it. It's always hard to figure out going in what cards will actually be strong and which ones won't, but we'll try to parse through this, having an incomplete picture thus far. So we'll jump right in here. So we got Earthquake here. Earthquake's a 7-cost Shaman card. Deal 5 damage to all minions, and then deal 2 damage to all minions. So this card really has 2 uses, I guess. One would be to get rid of Divine Shields, and then the other would be to take care of any of these minions we talked about last time, the Reborn mechanic, which means that they resurrect the 1 health the first time it dies. That's great and all. Personally, I think it would be stronger if it was the other way around and dealt 2 and then 5. But I guess it's more focused on the Reborn and fighting that than fighting the Divine Shield. But in general, I think I'd rather have the 5 damage the second time than the first. But I can see where there may be times where you'd want it opposite of that. So I don't know. I think it'll get limited play. I think you'll see it certainly come up a lot with like RNG type stuff where you get this card with different shaman things. But I don't know. I don't think you're going to see this played in a ton of decks unless all of a sudden the meta becomes all Reborn. Moving on, Embalming. 4-cost Warlock card. This is destroy a minion, shuffle 3 worthless imps into your deck, and worthless imp you can see here is just a 1/1. And so I think that will have its uses. You know, it's a good single unit clear. Not as effective against Reborn because they're going to just pop back up if you destroy them. I don't know that 1/1 minions in your deck are going to be particularly great, so there's definitely a downside to that. But it may see some use depending on what other creatures come out or the minions, show up in this expansion. Certainly, some characters. This is a good combat to mech decks, to Ziliacs. Some of these, cards that you want to just take care of, especially if they've got a mech that's really built up. You may just want to destroy it. So I can see where it may have some positives there. Then we get the Mage quest, Raid the Sky Temple. The quest is cast 10 spells. It's pretty easy to do. You pretty much do that anytime in a Mage deck. And you get rewarded with Ascendant Soul, Scroll, excuse me. Add a random Mage spell to your hand that costs 2 less. I think it's fine. It's having a random Mage spell to your hand. This is basically, what's that card? The card, it just rotated out recently. I'm blanking on its name, but it's the same thing where basically you get a random card, but you can't discover it. So it's a little bit less effective than that. I don't know. I don't think this will see a ton of play, but depending on what other stuff comes out potentially. Weaponized Wasp, 3 mana, Shaman. Battle Cry, if you control a Lackey, deal 3 damage. So that definitely has some good combos with Lackey decks, and I think that may actually see some play. 3 cost, 3/3 that does 3 damage typically is going to be good. Bees. Choose a minion, summon 4 1/1 bees that attack it. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what will happen if you. So it will probably. So if something say is like a 3/3, I bet it will drop 4 1/1s, and then 3 of them will attack it. But I'm curious how that mechanic will work in terms of if, is it. So it seems like because it says summon 4 1/1 bees that attack it. I almost wonder if it's like then attack it, or if it's only going to cast 3. I wonder how that will work. I bet you'll drop 4 1/1s, then have 3 of them attack. But I can see this again being useful against Reborn, being useful against Divine Shield type minions. But I don't know. It's kind of specialized, right? Like, when are you going to use this in a Druid deck? I probably wouldn't. So I don't think I will see much play. Brazen Zealot. Whenever you summon a minion, gain +1 attack That's going to get killed too easily. A 2/1 is not going to stick around long enough to be worried about it. Maybe you'll see some decks that really get going quick with this and maybe add a Divine Shield on top of it, but I don't know. I think it would be tough to get that going without. There's too much removal. Even with these cards that we've seen here, there's a lot of removal already. Plus all the different heroes that can basically take this out turn 2 with just their hero power. Sandwasp Queen. Battlecry. Add 2/1 Sandwasp to your hand. Sandwasp is just a 1-cost 2/1. Now this is actually probably a better card. This is a Paladin card, by the way. It's probably a better card than this Brazen Zealot. I think I'd rather have this than this, even though this is the, this is the it's 2 costs, but you get 3/1, and then you get 2 2/1s. So with the 1 cost, you just don't get the summon a minion gain +1. These two could actually combo maybe well together if you get them all out, but the odds of you getting all these out and not having, any of them taking 1 damage is, I think, unlikely. But an interesting setup they're trying to do here for Paladins with a lot. They're trying to focus more on sort of these strong attack minions with less power or less health. Death Rattle. Okay. Death Rattle. Draw 2 1-health minions from your deck. So again, this is all that same sort of idea. These all sort of combo together. So maybe there'll be some way to build this. I'll be curious to see. That's a nice ramp though. 1, 2, 3. Plus you get the 1 costs. Plus you can draw more of them. Things like that. I don't know. This may see a use. This could draw another Zealot. But I think you're just going to run into a lot of trouble keeping these things alive. Each player equips a 2/2 knife with poisonous. I don't know that you're going to want to give your opponent a 2/2 knife with poisonous, though. Again, it may have its uses at certain times of the game, and depending on the deck archetype you're playing, but for a rogue, I guess it just depends on how you built your deck versus how they built their deck. This may see some use, but I think it's very dangerous to give your opponent a 2/2 knife with poisonous if you don't have a way to stop that, unless you're really not playing very many minions. Psycho Pump, Battlecry. Summon a random friendly minion that died this game and give it reborn. Okay, so this is the Resurrect Priest. I'm a fan of this. I think, again, the 3/1 is tough, but I think summoning a minion, giving it reborn, you could really end up with something really powerful. The biggest downside of this is, unlike some of the other, you just get the 1 minion, so it's just, you get no say in it. It's not a discover. I think if this had discover, it would be broken, more or less. But all in all, not terrible. This reminds me of the chess piece from the 5 cost, whatever that chess piece was. That was the priest card that would resurrect something that just died. If you're really careful about what you have killed as a resurrect priest, you could potentially have something really great pop up. Plague of Murlocs. Transfer all minions into random Murlocs. That could be really good. I think this will see a lot of play. There's too many times where you need to, knock down your opponent and what he's playing, and this is essentially just a huge evolve. And you're going to end up, I think, if you think about the Murlocs, they're basically all the same. There's not going to be any huge differences, in my opinion. If you have the same number of minions, you're going to end up with more or less the same attack and health. With the different Murlocs that are out there. Alright, now we got our Warrior Legendary. Armadillo. Beast, Taunt. At the end of your turn, give all taunt minions in your hand +2/+2. So this reminds me of more of some of the Paladin cards, right? Where they kept giving their minions attack +1/+1 at the end of each turn and whatnot. Not a terrible card. I don't know. I mean, right now, Mech is really the way to play Warrior. I don't think there's any other beasts. Like, what else is this going to combo with? I think if this was a Mech, it would be a must play. But because it's not, I don't know. Are you going to be sitting there with that many taunt minions in your hand? Maybe. I could see this potentially comboing well, though, down the line. Again, you have to think about these cards, too, in terms of what's going to come out over the next year and a half, really, that this could combo with. So right now, not super strong, but I could see down the line it being a very tech part of a deck. Reno, So Reno here, if your deck has no duplicates, deal 10 damage randomly split among all enemy minions. Okay, so this is kind of going back to the old style Reno decks of, don't have any duplicates. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting effect. Deal 10 damage is obviously not the same as the old Reno of, heal back up to full health. It's not that great. But dealing 10 damage at turn 6 potentially, you could wipe the enemy board depending on what they have down. You could do a lot of face damage. And so I think most mage decks will run this, especially if they're any sort of quick mage deck. Now we've got a Hunter legendary. Dino Tamer Brawn. Oh, so that's Brawn. If your deck has no duplicates, summon King Crush. So King Crush is an 10 drop, 9 drop, something like that. Oh wait, he's probably right here. Yeah, 9 drop, 8/8. King Crush is pretty great. He's an underplayed card, but if you're dropping him turn 7 with this, this by itself is not great. Is it worth the 2 mana less to have no duplicates in your deck as a hunter? I don't think right now it is. Maybe it will see some use. I don't know. This is almost like too late game for most hunter decks right now. You're not going to get to King Crush in most decks. Turn 7, most of the time you want the game to be over by that point as a hunter. But potentially you could add some late game or mid game proficiency to the hunter that's lacking right now. Elise the Enlightened. So Elise here, legendary. If your deck has no duplicates, duplicate your hand. Duplicate your hand. I wonder what exactly that means. Do you end up with them in your hand? It could be okay if you're depending on what you have in your hand, that could actually be really powerful. So I think there's a lot of benefits to this card. I think you could see this get played a lot, especially if you can get the right cards in your hand to really make this powerful for the late game. Then Sir Finley here, he's a Paladin this time. If your deck has no duplicates, discover an upgraded hero power, 2 cost, 2/3. We all love the upgraded hero powers. I think that will see a lot of use actually in Paladin, because Paladin's Paladin thing is more or less the least powerful. Anything you can do to change it will be better, especially an upgraded one. Expired Merchant. Alright, 2 cost, 2/1, discard your highest cost card, add 2 copies of it to your hand. So really the biggest thing with this is you're going to make sure it dies, you're going to make sure it doesn't get silenced, but could be a nice combo if you can get it down with something else that's real nice. Another high cost card. Just going to be tough to make sure that you don't lose this card along the way. Making Mummies. So we got our Paladin quest here. Making Mummies quest, play 5 Reborn minions. I think those will be super popular, so that shouldn't be too hard. Summon a 2/2 copy of a friendly minion. Especially with the Reborns, that should be pretty nice, right? You should be able to keep stuff alive. I think that will see a lot of play. Reborn 1/1. That's kind of pretty simple. I think that may be good. That's not a bad 1-drop at all. Hidden Oasis. Choose 1. Summon a 6/6 Ancient with Taunt, or restore 12 health. So we've got the 6/6 Taunt, Befriend the Ancient, Drink the Water. So those are kind of the 2 spells. And then, you've got the different cards that will let you do both, choose 1 or whatnot. I think this is a good card overall for Druid. If you get to a situation where you're going to be playing late game, either of those things are going to be potentially good at a 6-drop. Wild Bloodstinger. Battlecry. Summon a minion from your opponent's hand and attack it. That could be good. It's like just another version of Dirty Rat. And Dirty Rat saw a lot of play back in the day because it just screws with the enemy team. Alright, Scarlet Web Weaver. Reduce the cost of a random beast in your hand by 5. That's good as long as all the beasts in your hand are high. But Brawn, for example, is a 7-drop, but he's not a beast. So you can't combo these two, which would be a pretty good combo actually. You could combo them in King Crush. Make him a 9. You go down to 5. You go down to 4. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what other, you need to have some high cost beast cards in your hand. Quite frankly, there aren't very many beast cards right now that are higher than a 5 that people are playing. Bizarre Mugger. Rush. Add a random minion from another class to your hand. I think that's okay for a 5-drop. Kind of a nice mechanic with the stealing, but I don't know if it's going to see a ton of play because it's such a high cost for a 3/5, but it's not a bad card by any means. Desert Obelisk. Okay. If you control 3 of these, at the end of your turn, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. That's an interesting thing. If you can combo it, for example, with the Paladin spell that we just talked about, right? So if you can start making copies of it, you could potentially see this in a few different decks. Any decks that can make copies, someone maybe even in a pre-stack, right, where you're able to resurrect and keep drawing these in some different way. Anything that makes copies would be good with this. If you can get it all out in one turn, that would be great. Battle card. Destroy a friendly lackey to summon a 5/5 demon. That's actually good. I think that will see a lot of play. That's a real good. It's a 3/3, and if you drop it with, so say turn 4 with a lackey, you know, you could drop the lackey, drop this, and then you've got a 3/3 and a 5/5 for 4 mana. That's actually really, really good for Warlock, which Warlock is desperately in need of some new cards because it's not very popular right now, and understandably, there's not much you can do with it. Destroy a minion. Your hero takes damage equal to its health. That could be good, you know, especially if you're playing against somebody that's got a bunch of 3/1s and whatnot. That's actually pretty decent, especially late game. You know, a lot of times that will, you'd rather destroy the minion and have that removal than have the health. Hunter's Pack. Add a random hunter beast, secret, and weapon to your hand. That's pretty good for 3 cost. You know, they're going to be random, but at the end of the day, you're getting 3 cards for a 3-drop, which is good. Bloodsworn Mercenary. Choose a damage-friendly minion, summon a copy of it. Like we said, that might work well with the Obelisk here. I think especially because you see a lot of warrior cards taking damage, right? Or you're intentionally causing them damage, that's going to see a lot of play in warrior decks. Fish Flinger. Add a random Murloc to each player's hand. You know, it will maybe be, it's like a Murloc deck card, right? Like, it'll be good in Murloc decks, but I don't know if anybody else is going to play this. You don't want to give your opponent cards, usually. Summon 7 Murlocs from your deck. Tip the scales. That's going to be great in a Murloc deck. That makes Murloc Paladin viable again. So I think we may see some more Murloc Paladin potentially. You could maybe even combo that with like a few of these cards. These you know, 1 health minions that we talked about earlier. You play these plus the Murlocs, and then 7 Murlocs from your deck. You know, you're not going to have this until turn 8 at the earliest. I'm just trying to figure out like how many Murlocs are going to be left in your deck at that point between some spells and other stuff. But I guess, you know, you could see that. And again, if you don't have anybody on your board, Tip the Scales is going to be a great way to refill your board, especially if you just got wiped by either, you know, Flame Strike or something like that. So hopefully that was helpful to you. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts, just a few thoughts that I had of the different cards. We've gone through them. Definitely subscribe to my channel if you like Hearthstone. We do a lot of Hearthstone content, some Heroes of the Storm and some other games. And thanks so much for watching.